By suggestion of the activist involved, the following potato quality upload is for street activism training purposes, as a series of videoed mistakes to analyze and enhance. Probably the only English-speaking street video ever set in Girona, near Barcelona. The activist was nervous in reaction to his opponent's body language, a farmer, in a hurry, and perhaps fearful of being asked for a donation, which is never done by Cubers. The pro-animal abuse farmer was compelled by the footage, seeing videos of a curious violent reality just beyond his departmentalized career. He didn't understand English well, but the repetitions have been edited out, more than halving the original footage. Both made many mistakes, as shall be broken down.
Have you ever seen this before? These are the images of slaughterhouses and farms all around the world. Also, yes, and also gas, and also using a knife. It's not the method. These animals, they suffer unnecessarily. It's not necessary to eat animals and their secretions.
The audible intro is asking if they have seen animal abuse footage before, correctly stating that it's commonplace torture around the world, albeit Western world, and pinpointing that regardless of method used, all these animals don't need to suffer, because we don't need to eat meat at all.
What is the number one cause of the destruction of the planet? Global warming. Yes. And what is the number one cause of global warming, according to you?
Not picked up by the audio, Pharmer applies cities. This is an us versus them mentality, and projection blaming propagandized by the United Nations Environmental Programme, creating the illusion of so-called innocent ruralites feeding polluting urbanites.
The trucks and the cities and the planes, it's only 13%. This is 87%.
The actual key is understanding that CO2 is no way as formidable as CH4. In other words, carbon dioxide has a negligible effect in comparison to methane. Urban methane is just 1% of the problem, but that science is to come. Firstly, we'll notice the above hedging grammar, in other words, the language techniques used by the UN to cover their ass. Key contributor, no figures, plus leeway given that there are other bigger keys. Major sources, no figures, leeway for larger unannounced sources. Estimates suggest not only are there no sources for their statement, their hearsay is just a suggestion, not a fact. Among the largest, meaning there is leeway for larger unannounced contributors. Finally, the main sleight of hand here is CO2. Sure, 75% grants it the illusion of formidability, and it lingers for tens of thousands of years in the atmosphere. But the left-hand chart compiled from corrupt IPCC data infers that CO2 is in turn 75% of the world's problem. Dissected by Dr. Rao last year, however, more than halves the relative effect of CO2 on climate change using airborne fraction calculation, and more than quadruples the effect of methane using a fair global warming potential average of 10 years. Rather than a corrupt, useless 100-year span that IPCC still use, CH4 breaks down with an 8.4-year half-life, or in some conditions over 12 years, forming CO2. These are the goals of the UN from their same article. Now let's see the robustness of the UN itself. Okay, global misinformation warriors, that's good. The UN must be careful with their own until they are slapped down by the meat industry and retract their own truth. I quote, "The meat industry is responsible for more GHG emissions than the world's biggest oil companies." Wow. Meat production contributes to the depletion of water resources and drives deforestation. Even more than this, well, someone's been reading Girona and Anhang, or Arjen Hoekstra, the Environmental Protection Agency, Environmental Defense Foundation, or even Silas Rao, whereby 87% of climate change is due to humans' exploitation of animals, 49% of the Earth's usable land is exploited by enslaved grazing animals, and the crops needed to feed them. By the way, grazing land storing just 2% of land carbon. The carbon or water cycle is no more a cycle, because the greedy are stripping trees faster than we plant them. In UN's own words, destroying 12 million hectares per year. Burning rainforests to make way for cattle to desiccate on nutrient-leached soil. So the UN goals are massaged in this direction. Do any look like they relate to food choice? They are supposed to. Yet as a teacher, I know this is the propaganda that is smearing education. Look, it tickles.
What we're trying to do here is make people question things. I don't want you to believe me. I want you to be interested and doing your own research. If you knew already that this is the number one cause, would you do something about it?
Rao clarifies that even if we were concerned more about CO2, it has been land use change over 8,000 years that have accumulated a radiating effect, greater than fossil fuels 200 years. which poses a sulfur-based cooling effect. So a calculated reason to stop meat eating first. The calculations are clear for a specific order. There's only one way to reverse climate change. Stop meat first. Second phase being swapping green energy at a rate of 11.5% over 9 years, but it won't work if meat consumption continues to increase.
Stop financing this. Stop eating animals and their secretions.
So you are vegan?
Yes, I'm vegan, but some people are not vegan and they decide to stop eating animals and their secretions just because this is the number one cause of environmental destruction.
The main reasons for people turning vegan are for the animals, and if it's not for that, they either gravitate into that realization or gravitate away because they were never vegan in the first place. Vegan for health, beauty, or street cred has that commonly superficial issue and is the type that won't hold up in court. Veganism is by UK law a protected way of life against discrimination. So if you want protecting by law, you gotta live vegan. The other reasons likely won't cut it. For the environment, for humans, philosophy, society, economy, food, or sex.
Other people stop doing it because number one cause of mortality is, as a matter of fact, is heart attacks and problems with circulation. What is this white stuff that people have when they have heart attacks and when they have stroke?
Based on their lifestyle.
Depends on their lifestyle. Yes, Pharmer is correct. Vegans primarily have a sweet heart and secondarily are booned with various boons to good health due to our diet. Diet is Greek for lifestyle. Do vegans smoke? Not when they realize they are unnecessary. Animals tested and added with animal waste ingredients. Do they drink ethanol? Not drinks clarified with egg, fish bladder, isinglass, or animal gelatine. And not when of a religious ilk, focusing on a healthy propagation. From 21 cross-sectional studies, it would be nice to add for once an RCT, paid for free food health rather than costly pharmaceuticals. But we're still in a relative stone age when studies classify a vegan as someone who even eats fish, eggs, or meat once per month. And then they are surprised that casual vegetarians are as unhealthy as meat eaters.
Where does saturated fat come from?
Animals.
Yes.
Butter.
And their secretions. Animals and their secretions. Do you know what a secretion is?
Yes.
Eggs and dairy. Saturated fats
Yes.
are bad or good for you?
They are good. We need for
We need fats.
your body needs.
But we don't need saturated fats. There are many other fats, polyunsaturated fats. We have omega-3s with the healthy ones, and you have the unhealthy ones. Do you agree with this?
Yes. Even with that, we need other like
And so
nutrition that we can get from animals.
the bad cholesterol, where it comes from? Because all the information is in your mobile phone, yes? Now, in our day and age, if you're ignorant or if uneducated, it's because you choose to be, right? Because you have all the information on this little thing in your pocket, right?
50-50 chance of being correct here. Pharmer knows the majority of saturated fats come from animals. The activist corrects, and their secretions. But Pharmer chooses that the reverse is true, again. It takes a lot of persuasion to polarize a fact, but $500 billion subsidy to meat and dairy industry, $400 billion to the fish industry, lobbied with a minimum of 100,000 revolving doors, meaning ex-politicians, should do the trick.
The cows, they create gases, very bad gases for the environment, yes? Yes? And the shit doesn't go through any washing. They throw it away on fields, on the oceans, in rivers.
Every part plant.
Yes, but you don't need shit to grow plants. You have the vertical agriculture, which doesn't need any shit whatsoever.
Vertical agriculture, known as vertical farms, use 95% less water and 75% nutrients, yet yield more than in 12 times less space, like in Singapore, next to a desalination plant. Therefore can free up so much land for wildlife, while feeding the world.
And you have other methods, not using any chemicals. The new methods of crops
That will cost
cheaper.
Farmer's right again. He is meter for the shit, because it's cheaper than his own responsibility of composting Earth. But at least he isn't part of the $6.4 trillion subsidy to mineral exploration and therefore chemical fertilizers. One could even say Pharmer is a humanitarian, saving the Dutch from drowning in their own livestock density. I quote their MP Tjeerd de Groot. "We can't be the tiny country that feeds the world if we shit ourselves." End quote. A soil expert, Clayne Jones, relates, compost has these 7 advantages, few to no pathogens. But animal manure is even given away, and you only have to pay for the petroleum-guzzling transport. But wait, there's more. Free fecal coliform, or E. coli. Bon appetit.
Because 50% of all the food that is made in the planet, 50 grains, etc., is fed.
Even worse considering Dr. S. Rao's fact that as dry matter biomass, 80% of the planet's food is fed to animals, in turn providing just 15% of sustenance for necrovores. Dr. Joseph Paul adds that plants provide Earthlings 82% of our calories and 63% of our protein. End quote. That is also why vegans have higher protein blood plasma albumin, more than meters.
To 80 plus billion animals every year, unnecessarily.
Not just 80 billion land animals, may reach double that by calculating world's leading Brazilian slave drivers' poultry weight rather than American. Besides, 4 years have passed, so we are likely at a 160 billion mark. Annual sea creature deaths are conservatively 37 trillion per year.
With all that grain, could feed the world 14 times over. We would solve starvation.
Regarding grain, just using a fraction of poultry, for example, world broilers, 44 million metric tons of corn and soy is fed to them, so that meters are responsible for 60.6 kilos of mostly rainforest soy per capita, when counting the soy animal feed in this graphic.
I think it's necessary to eat animals and their secretions to survive. How you explain that people like me and millions of other people don't eat any animals or their secretions, and the best athletes nowadays,
Haven't you have eat any type of animal?
you can find all the nutrients.
I'm asking about you.
Yes.
Haven't you had, since you eat your last dairy or meat source from animals?
You don't need every single nutrients you can find in the vegetable kingdom. You don't need to eat dairy or eggs to find the nutrients that you need. You are convinced that you need to eat animals and their secretions to have all the vitamins. Is that it? Okay. Will you do your little research?
These are the 18 medical institutions that all agree you can go vegan during all stages of life: pregnancy, newborn, child, teen, adult, athlete, and old age. They are all released position statements according to their speciality, whether it be pediatrics or heart and strokes of Canada, or the world's largest gathering of medical professionals. There's clinical nutritionists, cancer research, and prestigious academia, not only in the English-speaking UK, USA, NZ, or Oz, but also in Quebecois and German.
To find out that this is not correct, or you don't care about this?
You like to have a farm and have animals, and I eat.
Yeah, okay. Because it's your business. That's why you're trying to defend it. But if you knew for sure that it's bad for the environment, which is something you don't know now, but if you knew it's bad for the environment, it's the first cause of environmental destruction, global warming, if you knew about it, now you don't know. You still have a farm. If you can have another farm with vegetable products instead.
I have both.
Instead of
have
using.
both.
Okay, you have both. And strokes. And the conversation I was trying to tell you.
Because I know some vegan people also have their heart attacks.
Yes, because a lot of it. Yes.
That's just in their lifestyle.
Pharmer reiterates lifestyle, but now doubles down, I quote, "But even vegans have heart attacks." So clearly his native country's fairly large incident rate of coronary heart disease passes his mind. It's true, food mostly has correlation but not causation factors, especially as Big Pharma achieves record profits on injecting side effects and legally authorized to destroy alternatives that they have no patent over. In analyzing a bordered country with a huge difference in culture, i.e. warring with meat versus impoverished with vegetables, the difference is astounding. And as Pharmer is now living in one of the most longevous countries, his new threat of his lifestyle affecting his health is cancer. Thankfully, we have a great deal of knowledge about the lifestyle habit of smoking that affects that, plus a plethora of chemicals we have to stay away from. And this is the heart of every cancer, insulinoid growth factor 1. We all have cancer cells. We all have IGF-1, just like we all have cholesterol. We produce it, but likewise, if we choose a lifestyle that proliferates it, consuming it without exercising it away, and in this case, just a glass of milk will undo all the hard work a vegan has accrued to encapsulate IGF-1. Why feed the fire of cancer? We have enough from pollution and everyday leaching from environmental materials than to knock our own nails into a coffin just to pleasure the tongue and the ego of dominance.
Yes, because a lot of vegans don't give a shit about their health, and therefore they eat shit. They eat fried potatoes. They eat, fries. They eat Coca-Cola. They drink. So if you eat, no, they don't understand what I'm saying.
Vegans not giving a shit about their health. The activist is referring to junk food vegans or plant-based vegan burger eaters who often say they are vegan for health while ledging around eating processed plant food, although it's healthier than processed meat. Seen by this simple carcinogen chart, they are both arguing about lifestyle, yet health-wise, a strolling vegan will outperform a meater, largely due to no cholesterol in any plant. True vegans read every ingredient list in case not even cochineal beetles are used in a red food dye. much like the religious leader not condoning a wipeout of species, or this religious leader condoning eyes on the ground to not even step on an ant while we stroll. That is our lifestyle, and it becomes nature to grow compassion for everything.
Going vegan has nothing to do with health, nothing to do with the environment.
Not quite. Health and environmental excellence is a pleasant side effect for being vegan for the animals.
The animal abuse is the cause of the environmental destruction.
Environmental destruction, zoonotic diseases, and even war. Master philosophers have realized this for millennia, that as long as we eat meat, we will suffer through war. What goes around comes around. Even a chef sees it in the aggressive personality change of his patrons.
Of people dying of diabetes 2, high pressure, etc., etc.
Regarding high pressure, as in stress, even fish suffer with corticosteroids and catecholamines. Rife with bovines, we know stress is deadly. Yet we inflict stress, proven scientifically, with transport for horses, dogs, pigs, and mice.
Okay, you don't give a shit about animals, to be honest, because you're a farmer and you kill them, right? So we're here to defend them and you're here to kill them. It's okay. I mean, we're different, right? But it doesn't matter if you love them or not. This is not sustainable. Do you understand the word sustainable? Do you understand the word? We are almost 8 billion people on this planet. It's absolutely impossible to feed everyone eating animals and their secretions. And we only have 7 years to make a drastic change. Have you ever heard about the point of no return? We increase the temperature 1.5 degrees, then it won't stop this. It's something that affects humans. Your future.
Point of no return. Dr. R. Oppenlander refers to this pie chart explaining tipping points, but this rose diagram by Dr. S. Rao is even better, as the black dots signify animal exploit.
Yeah, you need to do exactly. Please take a picture of this. This is what I'm living.
Pharmer had to dash, but have a card ready for people to memento. It serves as a seed, and if interneted up, they can sign up right there.